Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review of The Expanse, Season 2, Episode 12, The Monster and the Rocket. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of The Expanse, so I'll have to start by giving a spoiler warning for The Expanse up to Season 2, Episode 12. If you haven't seen up to this point, you may not want to watch this video, otherwise some things may be spoiled for you. So this episode served great as the penultimate episode of the season that really helped ramp up the tension for the finale, but more than that, as an episode in itself, it was amazing as it had a lot of exciting elements that make this show great, such as great dialogue, character development, political intrigue, suspense, and most of all, heart. So let's start with Aaron Wright, as this was sort of the headline of the episode. I think Aaron Wright has become more of an important character this season than the previous season, because I thought of him more as an aide, sort of side character. In fact, I didn't even know him by name. Whereas this season, he became more important, particularly with his ties to Jules Pierre Mal and Protogen. So I knew from the start of this episode that something important was going to happen with him, as they spent a lot of time with him, showing him take his son to school and cut himself shaving, and he seemed to be somewhat riddled with regret. So I totally bought into the fake out that he was going to kill himself, which was obviously what the show wanted you to believe, as the way he was talking to his son felt like parting words of wisdom, and the conversation with Sorella telling him telling her to give his medal to his son and speak well of him, and most of all showing him write a letter and then looking at poison. But nope. Turns out that the poison wasn't meant for him, but the Martian ambassador who was working with Protogen. Call me a sucker, but I actually believed that Aaron Wright was regretful for his actions, particularly after Eros almost destroyed Earth. That being said, I knew that if the opportunity arose to save his own ass by throwing Sorella under the bus, that he wouldn't hesitate to do so, but he certainly went much further than that. He actively wanted to become Mal's stooge again, and went as far as to attack a Martian ship in order to do it. This completely blew me away. I wasn't at all expecting that. But Aaron Wright has surely shown his true colors, and all this after he gives his son this huge speech about listening to your heart, and then he goes and proves what a humongous douchebag he is. Now, I'm still a bit unclear about what Aaron Wright's ultimate plan is to deal with Sorella, who is in a position to expose him and Mal. The ending left this kind of unclear, but I guess we'll find out in the following episode. Speaking of Sorella, I absolutely loved the scenes with her, seeing the banter between her and Katjar, and how Bobby Draper fit into this was amazing. It was interesting that she took Draper on this mission with her as some sort of bodyguard, but didn't give her a gun. I suppose that was Katjar's idea, as he made it clear that she was just an observer, but it strikes me that he would have been more helpful had she actually had a gun. And we really get a great Draper quote in this episode when Katjar asks if they could trust her, and her response was, "I have never crossed anyone first, but burn me and mine and I'll go through you like a door." An absolutely amazing quote that sets up her character quite nicely. It was interesting seeing how Draper has to adjust to her new situation, and her interaction with Katjar as a despicable spy. Overall, the interactions on all these scenes were just perfect. However, once Sorella met with Mal, this was interesting as well. I love how when they first met and he gave her all these warm greetings, "Oh, thanks for coming," and she's just like, "Get to the fucking point." I absolutely love this character. Anyway, it was interesting that Mal seemed to want her to back down, but wasn't really giving her much incentive to do so, rather than saying, "Oh, he'll keep Mars and Earth from going to war with each other," which I suppose, at the surface of it sounds like a huge draw, but if you think about it, it's not really much incentive for Sorella to back down, because she could try to defuse the situation herself. So I knew that she would never go for it. But then, of course, everything changed when Aaron Wright pulled his power play. I'm still not sure how Iron Wright managed to destroy the Martian Black Ops ship without starting a war, but maybe it was because it was an unofficial ship, so they couldn't officially go to war over it. So switching gears to Holden, it was a bit interesting to see how off the rails he's become, where he's become totally obsessed with killing the proto-molecule in almost a Moby Dick type hunt, where he wouldn't listen to any other opinions on the matter and was all about destroying anything having to do with the proto-molecule. But if you think about it, he isn't completely unreasonable, as he saw firsthand how destructive the proto-molecule can be, and the people testing it are obviously just evil and not to be trusted. But it was also interesting getting Prax's point of view, because as far as he was concerned, there were innocent children that were being tested on, and possibly his own daughter. Alex seemed to be the ultimate voice of reason here, while most of the time he went along with Holden, but tried to speak reason to him. But when it came down to save their friends' lives, he put his foot down. And it goes to show that Holden wasn't so far gone, he was able to hear that and give up his hunt for the proto-molecule in order to save Naomi and the Ganymede refugees. Speaking of Naomi, this storyline was really heart-wrenching and completely believable, as Naomi worked to get the Somnambulist up and running in the way she convinced her captain, who, to say the least, is not on good terms with them, was pretty interesting. But what was more engaging was the situation with the refugees and how they got out of hand, which is understandable because they were faced with certain death. And the captain enlisted the help of someone she only referred to as Big Guy to help keep everyone in order, but when it looked like he was being left behind, he started getting rowdy as well. And this, created quite the dilemma for Naomi, as she was forced to look upon all these people who were going to die, including children and their mothers. So while she was looking at them, I knew there was no way in hell that she was simply going to leave them there to die, particularly when she felt she didn't do enough on Eros. In fact, it was interesting that she even mentioned Eros. But what was really interesting was Amos tried to stop her from intervening, and she just kept pumping him full of drugs until he passed out. That was a pretty cool scene. And it was just amazing, like the look on his face. And the following scene, where Naomi convinced the Big Guy to help her save 52 people, was absolutely heartbreaking. There are, these are one of the great emotional scenes that the Expanse pulls off really well, and this scene was indeed very effective. It was a bit tear-inducing when Big Guy pushed Naomi across the doors and then closed it and wished her well. A very effective scene. The more sensical part of me was thinking, well, of course he gave up his spot for her because she's the main character and she needs to live for the show to go on. But in a story sense, it makes sense as well, because he gave this big speech about how they are belters and they need to be strong, which includes sacrificing themselves to save others, and it makes sense that he would in fact do so himself, and that he would see a good in Naomi, and she could have simply left them there to die, but she went out and risked her life to save 52 people, and so he would want her to live so she can do more to help others. And what an intense ending, where it looked like the Somnambulist would be destroyed by the Martian blockade, but Holden came with the Rocinante right at the last minute to save them, and it was so great the way Holden just got the fleet to back down by targeting all of them and making this badass speech for them to back down. This was one of the greatest get up and cheer moments that the show has had yet, and completely redeeming Holden, and this shows that he is in fact still very humane. So my rating for The Monster and the Rocket out of 10 is a 9. Excellent. This was an amazing episode with a lot of emotional highs, as we, at first are fascinated by the political intrigue that takes unexpected twists and turns, especially when Aaron Wright makes his power play, and then ends on a powerfully emotional high note with Naomi manages to save some refugees while the others sacrifice themselves so some may live, and then top it all off with Holden's badass save that shows that he still has some humanity left in him. Overall, a very effective episode. So So that's it for my review of The Monster and the Rocket. Be sure to check back here next week as I cover the Season 2 finale. Also, be sure to check out my channel for many more videos on shows like Game of Thrones, Star Trek, Better Call Saul, The 100, and more, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.